So, Friday morning once again, and welcome to Pat McArt in Donegal. How are you, Pat?
Morning, Jude.
Are you well? Are you fighting fit?
Yes. We must do our usual weather forecast, our weather review. It's work. It's sort of going to say work. What's that? Dark and warm. It's actually dark out there, and it's. I'd say there's a bit of frost and rain coming in the next day or two. It's a wintry day, Jude.
Well, after all, you are in the west of the province. I bet you wish you
Absolutely.
were part of the present state in which we are.
I'm sure. Hey, Jude, just you mentioned that. By the way, just before earlier this morning, I was listening to RT, and Carndonagh, which is where my wife's from, and which is only about 20 or 30 miles from where I'm now presently sitting, has the highest rate of COVID in Ireland. And one of the very simple things is, Jude, half of Carndonagh works in Derry, and half of Derry comes to live in Carndonagh. And I just got I think it's got a COVID rate 9 times the average for the Republic of Ireland.
It's also the home of your TD.
Charlie McConnell, the Minister for Agriculture. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any connection between all of us.
No. But Jude, we're not. We didn't intend talking about this, but I'm just throwing it in there. This whole thing about having 2 sets of guidelines and 2 sets of rules. There's some weeks back, Northern Ireland was open for 2 weeks when the south was closed. The day after the south opened, the north closed. Like what? And no wonder that the rates along the border counties is astronomical. Anyway, I'm just making that point as we move along.
Well, we're going into the north. They're going into lockdown
on Boxing Day and St. Stephen's Day.
What you call it, Boxing Day or Stephen's Day?
Well, in my other life, I insisted we called it St. Stephen's Day.
Good for you. Yeah. We always called it a Children's Boxing Day, but I can see how Stephen's Day, since I went to Dublin, I see how Stephen's Day.
It was always called Stephen's Day.
It's much nicer, and I don't know.
Boxing I don't even know what Boxing Day means, but I don't know.
Something to do with servants, I think. Okay, let's tackle these 3 subjects we have from the newspapers. And the first one is from that well-known organ, the Grantham Journal. And needless to say, it's about Maggie Thatcher. And apparently the council there are having a hard time because they said that they would underwrite the launch of a 10-foot statue of the former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in the centre of Grantham. But now some of the council are beginning to wonder if it's such a bright idea, because for one thing, it cost £300,000 to have it made. And that was done through mainly public donations. And now they're going to have to put a 10-foot high plinth underneath the statue. Why do you think that would be, Pat?
I have a fair idea, Jude. I know where you're going with this. I remember reading on Facebook or social media some time ago. I don't even remember who the guy was, but he organized. He said he would personally organize an egg throwing contest at the statue, and I think he had about 2,000 or 3,000 people already agreed to.
He had 14,000 people on Facebook.
I think it was only the second day. It already 2,000 or 3,000 people signed up. You throw eggs at it. Jude, I give you an unequivocal guarantee. If they put that statue up and it'll be vandalized as soon as humanly possible. The minute they take away the security, it will be vandalized. There'll be spray paint. It will be damaged in some way. And as you say, you asked the rhetorical question, why do you think that? They're putting it as high as they can because they don't want anybody getting near it.
Well, should they not be proud? I mean, there's a lot of people voted for Thatcher. And I presume a lot of people in Grantham would be proud of her. And she did change British society. So should she not deserve
did you change it for the better? You know someone...
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I would contend very, very strongly she did not. She looked after a certain class of people. Well, I'll call them the golf club set, and to hell with the working class. She had this sort of idea that, she said there was no such thing as society. She said it was taken out of context. Wasn't hell? Her whole political career was based on the idea of one of her children's a sort of testimony to her own personal beliefs. Selling guns to the Arabs or whoever the hell it was. So, if you have no personal responsibility or no personal responsibility, your first priority is climb over everybody else to get to the top. If that's your mentality, good for you. If you admire that, you admire Thatcher. I don't.
Would you not, supposing you were a woman, and even you weren't a woman, would you not admire the fact that she was the first British woman prime minister. And, you know, in the Tory party, I would have thought that women would have taken a very subservient place traditionally. So she must have had something that she was able to get to the top.
Jude, well, I don't even mean to be crude, but she had more balls than most of the men who were in that. Jude, she was no more. She might have been a woman. She might. She might have.
Do you remember that? Sorry, Pat. Do you remember you just said she might have been a woman? Do you remember spinning images to show her standing at a urinal?
Well, that's what I mean. She might have. Let me finish that sentence just in case anybody takes it in the wrong context. She might have been a woman, but she she was the worst type of man. If you get what I'm getting at, she like there was nothing soft or gentle or maternal about her whatsoever. In fact, I think she went into a man's world and had to prove that she was better than the men. She became worse than the men. And like Golda Meir was Prime Minister of Israel. She wasn't particularly maternal either.
Yeah. The fact that you're a woman doesn't mean that you're going to display traditional womanly virtues.
Jennifer Ardern in New Zealand is actually probably showing a real woman's way of doing things, and she's done it brilliantly.
Yeah.
There's two examples, if you want to use an example of what the difference, a real woman, and I mean a woman who thinks like a woman.
Yeah,
the reaching out, the kindness, the decency, and the toughness.
Well, I would tend to admire Nicola Sturgeon a bit too,
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And then we have Arlene, for example, and we had Mary McAleese. So
yes, but the thing about the Grantham, they're going to spend 100,000 on a reception at a time when food banks in that area are apparently at record levels. I think some of the Labour people are saying, to spend 100,000 on a reception for a statue for Mrs. Thatcher as beyond belief, and I agree with that. Jude, it's ridiculous. 100,000 for a reception for a woman who, by the way, Jude, let's get this clear. I think that just came into my head there. Which you've got elected the second time, but for the Falklands.
Yeah,
she was deeply unpopular prior to that little escapade in the South Atlantic.
You see, that's what's called politics, Pat. You find the thing that's going to be good for you or your party, and you do it. And in that case, it was send the gunboats in. So they're doing something similar here, or making an effort to do it with the mission thing.
I think even in look at Trump on his way out. He's executing people. He's executed more people, and no president in the history of in all the history of the United States, no president has executed as many people in the last months of his presidency than Trump has.
Well, I have to say myself that she's a woman that I do not like. By the way, what do you think of her presentation in the Crown? The character, the way she I
actually quite liked her. Gillian Anderson played her in the Crown, and I actually found myself quite liking it. By the way, I hate Thatcher. Just let me get that clear. Everything I believe in, I detested her. So let's get that clear.
Yeah.
But, there was the sort of snobby way that she was treated by the royal family, and grouse shooting and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the way her and Dennis were treated at them. I thought that that was snobbery going on. But hey, Jude, that was fiction. Like, I don't seriously believe that was what happened at all. But in the actual Crown, I felt sorry for the character that was in the Crown.
Well, that was
the person in real life. Yeah.
Set it up that way. She looked. I thought her movement was very. The character Gillian Anderson did her movement very well. Sort of scuttled across the room,
Oh yeah, but she got the accent up, and the intonation and the tone. Brilliant, absolutely. You'd have sworn it was Thatcher.
There's two things I remember Thatcher for, and both was discussed. And the first is, and I don't know how the British people forget this, the way she sent the police in on horses to beat the crap out of the miners. Now, the miners were one of the revered groups in British society. I knew that because we used to live in the Northeast. And I mean, mining, if your father or your grandfather had been a miner, they were sort of, it was like, I don't know what, it'd be like you had been
they were the backbone. They were the backbone of the country, Jude. They were. Even McMullen said that during the whole miners' strike. He said these were the people that won us 2 world wars.
And she sent in the troops, or she sent in the police on horseback, and film of it, beating these guys. I really don't understand. And then, of course, they wiped out all those mining villages. Just wiped them out of the place there. Terrible, really terrible. And the other thing, of course, I hate her for it. Honest. is the hunger strike. I thought that was sort of obscene. Really, well, it wasn't sort of obscene. It was totally obscene. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's leave Margaret Thatcher.
That's right. Yes.
Escanton Pache. Sic transit Gloria.
Sic transit Gloria Monday. Yes. Yes.
Okay. The next item is the fact that we are very. Oh, I was going to say we, but I know I'm not included in this. The Irish Post says that Ireland's placement in the world in terms of quality of life is second. It is second. It's not second to none. It's second. It's second. And it's based on things like education, average years lived, wealth, life expectancy, just about everything. So, Pat, tell me this. Do you feel you're living in the second highest quality of life in the world?
Yeah, Jude. This is a good place to live. Like even in the midst of COVID, like someone, I'm not living in Dublin, so I don't know, but I'm living in a place, Donegal, and the quality of life here is absolutely superb. Jude. Like from close to where I live, there's a nature reserve, 5-6 miles, and there's a lake in the middle of it. I can walk around. Behind me, there's an ancient fort, flat 3/4 of the Green Navalia. 15 miles up the road, Letterkenny. Oh, nice sized town. Fort about 10, 12 miles, Buntrana, 5 miles Derry. It's a lovely place to live. And, I was quite recently in Leitrim and Roscommon, and you can see that there's a quality of life. People, there's no massive rush, and there's beautiful scenery. There's very little, what do you say? Well, maybe the downside of having very little industry is very little environmental damage, and, you can look out and like behind me there, I can hear deer. Like the other night, there's deer calling. There's a lot of birds. There was a fox the other day. I've seen squirrels. No, Jim, okay, it sounds very idyllic, and I'm not bullshitting like that. But what I'm saying is there's a quality of life here, and I know how you can actually attest to these things. I'm not 100% certain. Like, I think it's what is it? Health, education, and income, and as you said, I think maybe life expectancy. And I think we're second to Norway. I think is it Norway's number one? I think it's Norway's
Norway
number
or Finland. I can't remember. Probably Norway.
I think it's Norway. But anyway, there is a quality of life here, and there always has been a quality of life here. Now I don't know how you can, a couple of years back, because of all the murders in Dublin, the criminal gangs, I think we dropped way down because there was a fear factor, and there was all that. But this last couple of years, there's been quite a good quality of life, and I would say we have a good quality of life. Yeah. What about those citizens living in the occupied 6 counties?
Well, I was just about to say that. Suppose we had a united Ireland tomorrow, that'd probably bring us down to about 275th in the rankings.
But by the way, Jude, here's one point. The Republic of Ireland, I think, and I'm not I didn't really look it up, but I think the average is nearly about $70,000 US. That's income for the average family. Like, Jude, in Northern Ireland, that would be way, way below that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And yet most people will say that if they were living in the south, certainly if they're living about Dublin, they would have far less money in their pocket.
Not everybody lives. Not everybody lives in Dublin. And by the way, the other day, somebody was saying to me, they're on a pension of something like £85 a week. Dude, it's 204 or 240 or whatever the hell it is in the south of Ireland. It's massive difference. And if you're on a disability allowance in the south, it's way ahead. People in the north are living in poverty, and I keep hearing all this thing, you have to pay for the doctors down south.
Yeah.
People in the south don't have to pay rates every blinking week in their home.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things. There are quite a few things that equal themselves out. But like I heard Jim Allister one day and says, "Why would we join the south? It's the most indebted country in Europe." No, it's not. Try looking at Britain. Britain and Greece, I think, they're the two most indebted countries in Europe.
How did Ireland? Well, first of all, we shouldn't be talking about Ireland. We're really talking about the south of Ireland. But how did the south of Ireland get out from underneath that massive bank debt that Micheál Martin denied the other day?
By the way, we should have really been chatting about that. But no, Jude, one of the things is we have massive exports. We have, Jude, I think we export, I think Silicon Valley in California is the only place in the world that exports more software, computer software and high-tech stuff. Everybody has this sort of image of Ireland, of the silver rivers and the lovely mountains. We are, and I know that sort of bucolic agriculture, Heimat. we're actually one of the most high-tech countries in the world. And but that doesn't quite suit the tourist board image.
Well, I think
Like a computer doesn't quite look as good as a salmon leaping up a river, does it?
well, there are people that rejoice in the fact that Google and Facebook and all the rest, and they look at the buildings in which these people have occupied in Dublin, and they are quite proud of the fact that so many of the really big companies, Apple and so on, have been a very important base in the south. I welcome both, actually. I welcome the image you've given of life outside your door there with lake and walk and squirrels and God knows what. And I also welcome the high-tech stuff. The only thing about that high-tech stuff is, one, those are big, giant companies.
And they can go any day.
They employ an awful lot of people, but it's sort of disgusting that they're allowed to wield so much power. I mean, I see them as they'll be broken up one of these years or decades.
Well, you would hope so.
But again, if they did, where you see there'll be difficulties maybe for the south of Ireland because of that. But anyway, we have them now, and that's good. I must say, to be honest with you, I agree with what you're saying. I always have loved when once you cross the border, there was a sense of something or another. And when I lived in Dublin, I was really struck by, now this is Dublin of the 60s, remember, how sort of fun-loving people were and how relaxed they were. Like the thing I used to notice is here, if you have a phone in, like to Stephen Nolan or something like that, people come on with their angry voices. You're early out there. Whereas if you had a phone in with Joe Duffy, I'm sorry for swearing on this particular channel, but if you had a phone in of Joe Duffy, the people that come on, they generally sound as if they know how to enjoy themselves, or if they're angry about something, they're angry in an eloquent kind of a way,
Yeah.
Is that prejudice on my part?
Well, I know, was it David Dunseith coined the phrase "whataboutery"? I think everybody comes on to talk back with an agenda, and they're bringing their baggage with them. Within 2 seconds, or you can say there's a Fenian or there's a Prod. But where and down south, by and large, people come on, and it's you're right. There's a sort of totally different tone. They come on about a point, and they don't bring all that baggage with them. Now, maybe Jude. But then, look at when you divide an island like we have, it's inevitable that that's going to happen. And as we said the last day, there's now 30 out of the 32 counties that don't have a unionist majority. So that creates all sorts of things. So you're not wrong.
Okay, but before we leave this, just ask you a final question. Nothing to do with it really. But how confident would you be that in your lifetime you will see Ireland go from second in the ratings to 256? I.e., how confident?
If you get unity, yeah. Well, we'll put it like this. I don't think unity is going to be a panacea for peace and calm.
Oh no,
but someone look. Things have to change. No matter what happens, Jude, there's going to be change down the road. And you're dead right. But it's going to be a process. It's not going to be an overnight. It's not going to be a slingshot.
Okay, but what do you believe you will live to see a united Ireland?
Well, I'm 67. I think 10 years. Yeah. Fair chance. Fair chance.
Okay, I much prefer 5. Okay. Let's go to the third item on our list here, if I can find it. Oh, yes. And that is Maradona, the late great, and for once both phrases, adjectives fit, the late great Maradona. There has been an order put out in Argentina that his body under no circumstances is to be cremated because there's all sorts of, he has got 5 recognized children and 6 what they call filiation requests in Argentina regarding his paternity. And although his lawyers have said that they have a sample of his DNA already, I think the courts or whatever are saying, no, don't do this. So this guy had, well, officially, he recognized 4 children in Argentina and 1 in Italy. But I'd say the chances are there's an awful lot more little Maradonas running around in both countries, and maybe
Jude, can I put it not only did he score on the pitch, he scored up it as well.
So it wasn't just known for his legendary right foot. Tell me this.
But do you ever remember David Coleman's famous joke about Ali McQuest? Here, he used to be on A Question of Sport, and he used to introduce him, and here comes Ali McQuest, scored 60 times for Scotland, 40 of them on the field.
Listen, that's all very well laughing at this, but that kind of reckless paternity is something that most people would frown on. So if Maradona was on your team and you find out all this, you were the manager, you found out all this stuff about him, that he was having children right, left, and center, would you not allow him to play?
Not at all. What a stupid question. I'm not there to judge his morals.
But that's what we do all the time. That's what happens all the time.
Hey, hold on. The time. Maradona was there for his brilliant left foot as a footballer. What he does off the pitch is, by the way, I'm not sitting here saying, I admire his morals, far from it. But that's his. The man lived a sort of torrid life. He did everything to excess. And you could see, and even in these last years, he was warned about his health. He was seriously overweight. He had ballooned out of all proportion. He was sitting, smoking the big Havana cigars, even though he had a heart problem. I think he drank brandy or whatever it was till the cows come home. And he sort of nearly had a death. There was no, what would you say? There was no line that he didn't cross. He did everything to excess. And that was part of his brilliance, because that was, I think, part of his character. He had no fear. No, maybe I need to cut back on me drinking. Maybe I need to stop. Maradona didn't seem to have that sort of gauge to know where to stop.
Very similar to George Best.
Absolutely. Maybe that's what makes genius Alex Higgins as well. The very thing that makes them great also, destroys them.
Well, I wonder. It's so difficult to know. There's a guy called Don Marquis, and he writes these sort of semi-funny, semi-philosophical verse. I must send you a copy of one of his poems soon. But he has a poem called Archie and Mehitabel, and it's about a flea and a grasshopper or something. No, a moth and a flea, I think it is. And the moth, Archie is the cockroach, I think. Yeah, he's a cockroach. And he's watching this moth going round and round a lamp in a house. This is the old days oil lamp. And eventually the moth plunges itself into the flame, and in one flash it's gone. And Archie, the cockroach, says, I could not but admire the glory of his death and the glory of his life, living recklessly and fully. At the same time, I'd settle for half the quality of life and twice the longevity. So, it's a good question, Pat. Have you ever thought, is it better to live a life where you're really going for it? Or is it better to be measuring out your life with coffee spoons the way we do?
I think there's something to be, that you never look back and you just keep going forward at 100 miles an hour and no regret. There must be something about that. But I know someone, I knew one person in particular lived his life I died young, and he left a sort of trail of destruction behind him. And I'm not so sure it's such a. No, remember the Thornbirds? Remember Carson McCullough? It wasn't Carson. Colleen McCullough's book about the bird, and the last thing it does in life is the most beautiful song before it dies. That's all very romantic, Jude. But having said that, look, I'm a card. I would love to live my life at 100 miles an hour, every day by storm, as it were. But we measure out our life, and I like my kids, I like my life. I want to live as long as humanly possible. All this thing, dying young and leaving a handsome corpse, is not exactly. I don't know if that would be my choice, even if I could do it.
I tend to agree with you, Pat. I do agree with you, obviously, or I wouldn't be here. But who was it? One of the pop singers of the 60s has a line, and he's still around. I hope I die before I grow old. Do you remember who said that? Who sang that line? It was one of the Kinks or somebody. But he's still around,
Ray Davis.
So he clearly has changed his mind about that. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying, that it really, when you get to a certain age, he'd be grateful enough if somebody gave him a bottle of whiskey, a darkened room, and a revolver. I said, what age then? 75, he said. So I said, okay, I'll ask you in your 74th birthday.
I remember too, the last day was a joke somewhere. It said, there was two men worrying about what sort of world these young people leave them: Keith Richards and Willie Nelson.
Very good, very good. Incidentally, I got an email complaining about your accuracy of one of your statements on this.
There's plenty of my statements that are not accurate at all. Go ahead. Which one?
You clearly was itching to go after you for another. I mean, the name means very little to me, actually. I don't understand half of the things you're saying most of the time, anyway, Pat. But Dwight Yoakam. Yeah. I think you referred to the fact that he was dead.
Is it Hal Ketchum's dead?
Well, I have no idea. But this guy says the claims of his death are grossly exaggerated, like Mark Twain's. I don't know who this Dwight Yoakam, a country western singer.
Yes. Hey, by the way, are you serious? You didn't know who Margot was, or were you just taking a piss?
Honestly, hand up. I did not know who Monica was.
Margot is Monica is their sister. I haven't a clue. That's a joke. Margot, by the way, is Daniel O'Donnell's sister, and she's been a country star for many years.
Really? Well, I heard you're just a little bit critical, shall I say, of her quality of her voice. I listened to that thing online where she was singing a song for Ireland or something. It wasn't bad. It's better voice than I have.
No, you see, I grew up at a time when she put out a couple of records about 40 years ago. And if you want, I think she must have been in a bath under the sea, in a hermetically sealed tank, because that was the way it came across. And the music was always the same 3 beat, so I was never that impressed. But I haven't. There's 3 or 4 big fans of Margot in this area where I live, and it's just someone it's sort of banter more than anything else. There are people that love Margot. I am not going to knock them. Who am I to judge anybody?
At this very moment, they may be asking for people to register on Facebook to have an egg throwing contest at you.
Well, Margot's got a lot more fans than I have.
Okay, Pat. I'm one fan. You have at least one fan. Okay, all the best, Pat. Thanks very much.
Cheers.